because the enlightened perspective is everything has the infinite intelligence of the universe and the consciousness of God. And you have that. And you have made this very magical trick on yourself to pretend and believe that you don't. And just like picking up this pen, you're like, oh, it's so heavy. Oh, this is so heavy. I can barely lift it. Right? Holding this pen. And behind it is a God consciousness that's going, well, this is a fun game. Let's play this out with our stories. Divine consciousness that's also in you, it's in everything, is behind the scene, but it's agreed to pretend for a while that it's not there, so we can have this experience and do something else. I mean, if you were all powerful, all knowing, it's kind of boring, right? There's no challenge. There's no games. You already know all the answers. There's no puzzles. But we're also curious, and we're like, what's that like? And what's that like? And so there's a curious play into things like powerlessness and suffering and being small and trying hard and struggle and get out. Like all of these things that divine consciousness would never know anything about. It's like, well, what would that be like? Well, let's go make a pretend play world and go experience all these things that all powerful, all knowing, gets to experience. You want the next layer of it?
Yes.
Please.
Okay, so now there's a term Miguel calls the dream of the planet in the Four Agreements, or the gods. He mentions just like 1 or 2 paragraphs, he calls them the gods. It's like if you get past taking things personally, then you have to deal with the gods. But then he doesn't explain what it is. But this is a long, big thing. But if you take a person's individual field of their ego, that cloud around them, and much like the matrix, you connect it to, say the fear is like what's a good one? Okay. This is my religion and my religion's right and your religion's wrong. And you're going to burn in hell. And I'm the one going to heaven. Here's my belief system, right? And now I have that downloaded into my program. That's my story. That's my identity. This is part of my ego identity. And that ego story is also a bunch of other individuals connected to that story. And that story exists as a living dream. It's a narrative that's alive in my mind. It's part of the fog. Well, all these whole group of people collectively have that story, and those stories join in the collective field as a collective story. And it's collectively an unconscious ego connected to everybody in that group. You could be with somebody and you make an energetic connection, you kind of feel them, you share that when you're in a relationship, you have this channel of energy that connects you to them. Well, you get a whole group of people with similar beliefs. They are all connected through these channels of energy. And this collective group ego story is pushing everybody in the group. In ancient times, we had a belief, oh, Poseidon is the god of the sea, and Zeus is this god, and Aphrodite is that god, and we need to fear, this god and that god, right? So the Greeks, Romans, or any mythology had this belief in this collective idea that was an idea that was a living dream, kind of animating everybody in the group. So that collective idea we call the God. Not capital God, but their mythological God. But that wasn't mythological because, well, it was something they believed in, therefore it had faith, it had emotion, it had energy, and it had all sorts of many concepts. Okay. And ideas all blended together. So it can be very complex, many stories. Lots of faith in all the stories, lots of emotion, fear of going to hell, hope of going to heaven. I'm right, you're wrong. 1,000 passages in their book, thousands more things to believe in, become this very complex library of knowledge that's all moving through the different humans in the group, feeding their minds, keeping them busy, activating, pushing on them. Well, so now you have not just that person no longer has just their own personal ego, but they have a collective dream that's not only when they get close to getting free of their own personal dream of ego, the group dream kind of comes along and says, hey, Gary, you're no longer going to church. Gary, you're no longer believing. I don't see you nodding along with the leader agreeing. Hey, and I'll be invited to make a bigger commitment, or I'll be sanctioned or made to feel guilty or bad because I'm not doing enough to support the group. Like the other people will come, it's now just not my own mind trying to tempt me. It's other people that this collective God comes along and says, hey, go get Gary back in the group because I want him to believe in my story and my faith. So the story says, the story is now working through multiple people to keep me and my attention into those stories. Okay, and so you see this in a political party. If somebody speaks against the party, they either get punished, so they don't do it, okay, or they get ostracized. We can't have them. He's not one of us. She's not one of us. Or a church. So you see the story not just work on a person, but will work through other people, doing things to leverage them in and stay committed. And so then there's hierarchy of these gods, small g, that push on people, that create a lot of the group dynamics in the world and such, whether it's religions or countries. So you see a lot of human behavior with that kind of group think, because there's an energetic network connecting people in a group. So if you understand this, then you start to understand society and human behavior in the world a lot better. Yeah, Daniel.
So I'm curious, how you told me about that and I see it. Like, how do you feel when you see that? Because when I see that going on here, I gotta tell you, I feel really heavy. Like yesterday I had a beautiful day, walking outside, going to the beach, just feeling beautiful. But then right, what happened? I opened up the news, which got me to the cycle of anxiety eventually. I was like, whoa, that's heavy. I was feeling so light and whoa, what's going on here is heavy. I could feel the heaviness, like what people are doing to each other. Heavy.
Now,
I felt heavy.
Is that true?
That it's heavy? It's a belief.
Okay. So different points of view, right? I'll give you the one that's the trickiest. When did it go from one bit of popcorn, the right amount, to, oh, that's a heavy amount of popcorn? Okay, when you say that's heavy, I think you had 4 bowls of popcorn right there. You had 4 bowls of that's heavy. too much.
Yeah.
And you took something that is, even the word choice made it heavier.
Yeah, that was my
Okay.
mind's word choice.
So I will say it can go this tricky. The impulse to read the newspaper,
Might have already been from that.
the beginning
Collective.
of temptation saying we need to pull Daniel. He's having too good a day. We need to pull him into our dream again. Oh, let's have him look at the world this way. Let's propose this. Oh, good. Now we've got him looking at something. Let's propose to him that that's heavy.
You're right, because something was sending that impulse to look at the news.
Okay. And this is the judgmental and victim type reaction of sadness. That is the kind of punishment a collective dream gives you for noticing what's happening and being in awareness. Right? And now you're out of awareness and you're not happy. And the dream's going, oh, I got Daniel. If I were the dream, I'm the ego mind, right? And I'm like, oh, Daniel hasn't given me any food today. I need to trick him. Okay, I have him use all his awareness to see something, and I'll have him make believe it's tragic. Oh, it's he sees. I got him to read the paper. I got him to look at the world. I got him to, now he's ready. I give him the suggestion. Oh, that's heavy. He didn't
Because it
notice.
tells
I
that
did it.
story. It tells the story that it's heavy. I mean, it's automatically happening.
Exactly. But I got you to believe it was your story. Yes.
And it says it's very important. I mean, even right now, here it's saying it's very
Yes.
important that I look at it.
Yes. Yes. And now I have Daniel back in my game. I got Daniel giving me faith with his judgmental victim story about the state of the world. Yes, I win. That's how the dream of the God will work. As you get through a certain degree level of awareness about humanity, yes, then you need to navigate past these kinds of reactions about humanity and ego minds and collective gods. You have to get past your temptation to fall for the next level tricks that it plays. Oh yeah, when I first saw it, I had big victim stories. You know, oh my God, this is sad, and I cried. Right, like I fell big time into being a victim about my new level of awareness. So like, oh, this is how humans are in their fog, right? And then at other times, you know, it's like I got, okay, don't do my victim, but I did my judgmental story about, oh, this is terrible, this is bad, the dream of the planet's a bad thing. Right, these gods are bad. Like, oh shit, I see. All I was doing, pumping faith into a different kind of judgmental story. Right. and then I stopped reacting as a victim and a judge. I'm just like, I have to go change this. This is terrible. I have to go change this. I wasn't judgmental. I wasn't angry. Wasn't rejected. I got to go change this. I pumped into a hero story about myself. Like I go make the world right. And then after a while, like, wow, I'm exhausting myself being this character that's not even me. I'm like, ego, you got me again. Good one. Right?
I have that story. I know stuff like, yeah, some character believes like I need to do something about it. Like it's really important. I do something about it. I put all my effort about it. And
Yeah.
it's like urgent, you know.
Yeah. And I'm very important. I have this information I have to tell people. It's like I have to set them free.
It's
Right.
more like,
But
to me, it's
but
like
that
even,
but it that's like maybe there's a truth. Then it's like, okay, let's, yeah, I want to do this. That's with presence. But the second bowl of popcorn of this too much heavy thing is like, I have to do this. This is so important. My message is so important.
yeah, I have to.
Right? So it goes from I want to distortion of some other purpose and agenda that's an idea of myself hidden in there. And right? So be careful with, like, as I've kind of shared, hey, here's a lay of the land of the ego and the gods and the if you add all the gods, there's a hierarchy above that. All the gods, it's the dream of the planet that has the gods of collective groups that plugged into individual. This is what makes up the matrix. Yeah, if you see, it's like, okay, that's there. It's Maya. It's another name for it. We've known this for a long time. And you're like, okay, this is the world. All right, so now what? What do I want to do? But to each one of those reactions to what we see tend to be another one of its side stories that can take us into ego dreaming again, ego mind energy.
It's clever because it uses the words that get you. Like for me, it's like it's important. You're running away. You're running away from people who need you. That one. You're in denial, or you wanna, just go off and be happy, but there's people suffering out there, so you need to do something about it. Like this is some of the things that go through my mind.
Yeah. So layers of the game. Layers of the game.
So,
and then just so we balance this out with some truth, huh? Because those are all the story versions and stories about the stories. Ego stories about ego stories, right? Judgmental stories about poor humans. It's so sad. Is what if this is by design? What if this is the universe learning, growing about itself in a beautiful way that's only possible as a development into awareness and compassion and love? We need our challenges. We need to make mistakes to learn and become aware and awakened and self-realized by these kinds of challenges. And every human being is in school, in the most beautiful yet challenging school of learning opportunities for this. And, at the same time, a beautiful, amazing, miraculous place to be, to, also enjoy and have fun while we're in school. The more awakened, get to have more fun. So
if I get that point of view, and I'm still curious, how do you feel today when you look at some of the things humans do?
how do I?
Yeah, how do you feel? I get how do you actually feel?
It depends which perspective I adopt.
What's the one that comes first for you when you look at it?
Well, more and more that, like, for whatever question, okay, so I'm here with you and I'm in the perspective of, like, somehow trying to impart this awareness of how I see it. And here's the dimensional layers. Okay, you want to know the playing field that we're on. Here's the playing field. And here's what the adversary looks like on this playing field. And there's this two other perspectives. There's this other one back here, and there's kind of one over here. There's this one over here that is this very compassionate. Yeah, humans are hurting. You can feel that. And then there's one over here, and it kind of just depends which one I move into is which one is whatever I have my attention. There's one over here, which is kind of divine, which is, oh my God, this is, and this is kind of the enlightened perspective. It's all okay. It's better than okay. All this suffering stuff is like this, just this funny, ridiculous dream we're having. It's all made up. And when we wake up from the dream, we're all going to have a big laugh. Because the enlightened perspective is everything has the infinite intelligence of the universe and the consciousness of God. And you have that. And you have made this very magical trick on yourself to pretend and believe that you don't. And just like picking up this pen, you're like, oh, it's so heavy. Oh, this is so heavy. I can barely lift it. Oh no, I'm suffering. It's like, oh, please, somebody help me. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Right? Holding this pen. We've hypnotized ourselves into that we're under this tremendous weight and great burden as humans. And our life is, and this world is terrible, and it's everything's so terrible. That's what humanity is doing. And behind it is a God consciousness that's going, well, this is a fun game. Let's play this out with our stories. And then we'll wake up and have a good laugh, because God consciousness isn't really believing any of the stories. Divine consciousness that's also in you, it's in everything, is behind the scene, but it's agreed to pretend for a while that it's not there, so we can have this experience and do something else. You know, kind of like what is something. I mean, if you were all powerful, all knowing, it's kind of boring, right? There's no challenge. There's no games. You already know all the answers. There's no puzzles. But we're also curious, and we're like, what's that like? And what's that like? And so there's a curious play into things like powerlessness and suffering and being small and trying hard and struggle and get out. Like all of these things that divine consciousness would never know anything about. It's like, well, what would that be like? Well, let's go make a pretend play world and go experience all these things that all powerful, all knowing, gets to experience. And so from that enlightened point of view of that kind of divine point of view, it's like, it's all kind of funny, this game we're playing, all these little games and stories. It's like, that's the divine point of view.